Freddy Krueger did not begin as a simple horror invention. The core idea behind A Nightmare on Elm Street grew out of real reports, real deaths, and a pattern that genuinely unsettled medical investigators in the early 1980s. Before writing the film, director Wes Craven came across a series of Los Angeles Times and New York Times articles describing a disturbing phenomenon among Southeast Asian refugees who had fled war and genocide and resettled in the United States. These were young, otherwise healthy men, with no prior heart disease, no overdose, no visible trauma, who were dying suddenly in their sleep. Families described a chilling pattern. The victims were experiencing intense recurring nightmares and an overwhelming fear of falling asleep. Some tried to stay awake for days at a time, using caffeine and refusing rest because they believed that if they slept, something inside the dream would kill them. In multiple cases, when exhaustion finally forced them to sleep, relatives reported hearing screams, choking sounds, violent thrashing, and then silence. By the time anyone reached them, they were dead in their beds. Autopsies often failed to produce a clear anatomical cause, and medical authorities struggled to explain the cluster. The condition was first labeled Asian Death Syndrome, later renamed Sudden Unexplained Nocturnal Death Syndrome, or SUNDS. Even federal health agencies investigated, but no single mechanism fully accounted for every case. Some researchers suspected lethal cardiac arrhythmias triggered by extreme stress during REM sleep, others pointed to trauma-related autonomic nervous system overload, but the mystery was never completely closed. One specific case that struck Craven deeply involved a young man who told his family he was terrified to sleep because what he was seeing in his nightmares felt like a real pursuing presence. He secretly hid a coffee maker in his closet to keep himself awake and spat out the sleeping pills his family tried to give him. When he finally collapsed from exhaustion and fell asleep, his family believed the crisis had passed, until they were awakened by his screams and found him dead. That psychological core, the idea that fear inside a dream could produce real death, became the conceptual engine of the film. Craven later explained that what fascinated him most was the reversal of adult logic. The older world dismissed the terror as just nightmares, yet the victim experienced it as a lethal reality. From there, the creative transformation began. The dream became a battleground. Sleep became vulnerability. The unstoppable biological need to rest became the trap. To give that invisible threat a face, Craven drew on a childhood memory of a frightening man who once stopped under his window at night and stared directly at him with a menacing awareness, a moment that burned into his imagination and later influenced Freddy's unsettling presence and fedora silhouette. The villain's name also echoed a childhood bully named Fred Krueger, grounding the monster in personal memory as well as cultural fear. Even the title location, Elm Street, was chosen symbolically because Craven associated it with the street name connected to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, calling it the place where the sense of safety ended. The burned skin, the striped sweater, and the blade glove are cinematic myth-making, but the underlying premise is rooted in documented fear, recorded cases, and unresolved medical debate. That is why the film's concept endures decades later. It weaponizes a universal human fact that everyone must sleep and connects it to real incidents where sleep itself appeared to become the final trigger. The monster is fictional, but the question that created him is not. What if the nightmare isn't just in your head, and what if you can't survive staying awake forever?